Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark. Welcome to my studio. So, what have I got for you lovely lot today? Well, the title of this video is Learning Through Experimentation. Now, I believe that's something that we all need to do from time to time. Try out new things, learn new techniques, and just experiment with the paint and see where it can take you. Now, when I first learned watercolour painting, there was no YouTube in those days, mostly from books, but a lot it was self-taught, and it came about from just experimenting. I've used that word a lot already, but it's true, just from having a go, playing around, not putting pressure on you to paint anything particular, but just see what the paint does. And that's what today's lesson is going to be all about. Now, I have got a tutorial. We've got a lovely, brightly coloured seahorse to paint, but again, I want you to jump out of your comfort zone, perhaps try colours you don't normally use, try different things, different brushes, just experiment. There we go, I've used that word again. So, come and join me and we'll paint this step by step together. And just a quick reminder, hang about to the end because we've got some wonderful paintings of sea creatures by the Facebook group. Right, so here's the thing. When I teach my beginners classes locally, the very first thing I do is to get the students to simply play with the paint, experiment with it, learn what happens with more and less water. For me, it's the most important part of understanding watercolour, knowing how the paint reacts in different situations without putting pressure on yourself to paint anything in particular. And look at all that magical stuff that happens when you leave the paint alone to do its thing. And here's the lovely photo reference which I got from Pixabay. And today's materials, my paper is some lovely Arche. It's a cold press finish, 100% cotton. It's £140 and it's on a block, so it won't need stretching. But of course, any decent watercolour paper will do. Now for my colours today, there's going to be loads of them, so I will list them below as I use them. And for my brushes, just 3 from my range, a mop, number 12 and number 6 round. And here's the pencil drawing, which as always is free to download from my website, link in the description below. Off we go! Now to play it safe, I'm only going to paint one half of the background at a time. With clean water and my mop brush, I'm just wetting the paper, painting around the shape of the seahorse. And switched here to my number 12, just to paint around these curves. Now I'm going to roughly try and match the colours from the photo reference top right, but it is important that all of these go in wet to get all those lovely soft blends. That's why I'm only doing half of the background at a time. Now the colours I'm using, I'll list them below, but as you can see I'm painting in quite a thick consistency because I already have a lot of water on the paper. Now what's really important to remember here is if you're dropping in washes which are far too wet, then you're liable to get those backruns and cauliflowers, which we don't want in this background. And if you can see things are drying out, give it a quick spray with clean water. It's very hot here in the UK, so things are drying very quickly. And another little tip which you can see that I've done is I've had these colours all pre-mixed and ready to go, so I'm not wasting time mixing and letting that background dry. And a little bit of splatting gets colour into your washes without disturbing the paint. And I'm tilting my board to an angle of about 45 degrees just to get that little bit of movement in the paint. Let's try splatting in a little bit of thick opaque cadmium yellow straight into that wet wash. And as I said earlier, this is all about experimenting. I don't really know what's going to happen with the paint, but that's half the fun of it. So when this is totally dried, I'm going to paint this left hand side in exactly the same way, but making sure I get a nice smooth transition between the two sides at the top. And again, all the colours are exactly the same mixes. So now we need to let this totally dry, so it's a perfect time for a short break, and believe it or not, it's got to be a glass of Seahorse Amber Ale, made by the Salcombe Brewery. Next, with some masking fluid, I'm just tickling in a few little areas that I want to preserve with some white. Then again, to make sure I have plenty of time for my washes to move, I'm re-wetting the complete Seahorse. Right, starting with this really nice thick bright yellow, which is a mix of cadmium and lemon yellow. Then dropping in while still wet a mix of sap and phthalo green. And basically these are all similar colours or the same colours as the ones I've used in the background. And here there's that nice blue stripe right through the middle. Now a little bit about these incredible creatures. Now they are very chameleon-like and they can change colour and seamlessly blend into their surroundings. And their little curly tail is used for grabbing onto grasses and coral so they don't get swept along by the current. And it's the male that actually gives birth. See, we are good for some things. The female deposits her eggs directly onto a specialised brood pouch on the male's abdomen. Then, after a period of 2 to 6 weeks, he'll expel hundreds of fully formed young into the sea. I know. Go on, say it.
Don't pretend you know about seahorses.
Next, for a little texture on the seahorse's body, I'm just taking some ordinary table salt and sparingly sprinkling it across the whole body. Then now we're in the damp stage, I'm taking my number 6 brush and some burnt umber and just putting in these dark details along the spine of the seahorse. And definitely one advantage of using 100% cotton paper, it does stay that much wetter than normal cellulose paper. A few little details on his head. Now, to get that random speckly effect on his body, I'm just lightly tapping in here some cobalt and phthalo blue. And if you just tap very gently, it'll stop it spraying everywhere. Now, to get a little extra texture, I'm just lightly dabbing in a few blobs of clean water. And you can see where that salt is just beginning to take effect and give that nice feathery texture. Touch of Payne's Grey along the spine here, and it's still going in while it's damp. A few little details here on his eye. So when everything's dried, it always looks a little bit lighter, so I want to beef up the strength of that yellow. So I'm overpainting with some cadmium and lemon yellow just to get that brightness back. Now this is something that I say a lot to my students, that if you do paint a wash too light, it's not a problem because you can always put another layer on top. The issue is when you start too dark, because you can make a light layer darker, but you can't make a dark layer lighter. And of course the yellow going over top of the green is giving the green an extra push. And same here with this blue, a nice watery wash on top. little bit of splatting here with some blue, and I'm getting hard edge dots because it's now going on to dry paper. Okay, so now that the seahorse is totally finished, I'm thinking to myself, does it stand out enough against the background? All the values look fairly similar, so more contrast is needed. So again, a bit of experimentation and a little bit more layering. So clean water again, I want soft edges. Then I'm coming in with a really thick, creamy Payne's grey. And a bit of splatting to get some dark up here in the corner. Exactly the same over here on this side, clean water again, and a really strong, powerful Payne's grey. As in the photo reference, let's get a little pinky colour up here. Just softening here with clean water, I don't want any hard edges. And let's go for a bit of French ultramarine blue up here. A little darker blue here on his fin, if that's what it's called. And a little touch of phthalo green. Right, when everything is totally dry, I'm using my rubber eraser and removing all the masking fluid. A little bit of bright yellow to start with, directly on top of the white. A few little final details with my number 6 brush with some Payne's grey on his eye. Next, I'm taking some gooey white gouache straight from the tube and just painting in a few little white highlights. little white lines on the fin here are quite a nice little detail. And I'm just using my finger here to blur out the ends. Next, I'm going to have a go at that bokeh effect, which was all a big rage a few years ago. Now, you're going to need a fairly stiff, stipple sort of acrylic brush or an oil brush. And you're going to need one of these plastic circle guides, although you can do without it. Right, so I'm dipping my brush in clean water and just removing some of the residue and slowly rotating around within the guide. Not pressing down too hard, but just enough to lift off some of the paint, then dabbing out with a tissue. It's a technique which is used quite heavily in photography, but I think it can add an interesting effect to your watercolour. So here I'm doing a couple without using the plastic guide, and it's just a case of simply rotating the brush around, but trying to keep as much of a clean circle as possible. And another one down here. I think what is important is to get various sizes, and even sometimes them overlapping can be quite effective. And maybe a couple just off the edge of the paper. There we go, all done, and this one in just over 2 hours. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and you'll give it a go. This is definitely one to make your own and, of course, to experiment with. So, coming up now, as promised, are some wonderful paintings by our Facebook group, so please check those out. But in the meantime, please don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already. It is free. And of course, I'll look forward to seeing you all again next week for another Watercolour Wednesday. Have a great week, everyone. Cheers.